Today some small tips about getting your workflow in correct color. One of the first things you have to do is calibrate your monitor. You can use, for example, a spider and it will calibrate your monitor. That way you know that you see the correct colors on screen. But now when you do the photo shoot, what's the best way to get the colors correct? Some people will say, I will just shoot the image and later on in Photoshop I will tweak the color. Well, that can be done and it's a creative process, of course. However, when you have to deliver images to your customer, you will very quickly see that, for example, color 1 is a little bit too blue, color 2 is a little bit too green, etc. And your customer won't be happy. So you have to have a reference. And some people will say, just use a white piece of paper, shoot it with your model. So she's holding a white piece of paper. And well, although that sounds interesting, it's not. In every piece of paper, there are so-called Whiteners. And those will make the images or the paper look a little bit more white. So there's too much blue in the paper. So when you do your color balance on a white piece of paper, you will lose some blues because there's too much blue in the paper. You color correct this, so all your images will look a little bit with too less blue. So what can you do then? Well, you have the custom color checkers for this. So let's look at one. This is the spider checker, and this is a really big one. The first image you shoot, you let your model hold the spider checker, aim it towards the light source and shoot it as flat as possible. Later in Photoshop you can make your profile and you will know that your images are correct. This one, however, doesn't make a camera profile. It makes a profile just for that image, so for the light hitting it. The one I use most, and it's a little bit smaller, is the Colorchecker. And it's this one. It's a really small device. You can put it in your pocket, and when you open it up, you have a white balance card, and when you open it up the other way, you have the color checker. There are less squares in this as in the spider checker, so it's a little bit less accurate. But the main advantage of this one is it's a totally automated process from Lightroom, and if you use Photoshop it's very easy. You make a DNG file, you drag it into the software and it will make a custom profile. The main advantage of the color checker is it makes a profile for your camera and the light setup. So it's a real camera profile. The spider checker makes a profile in Lightroom or in Photoshop, but it's more an HSL profile. This one really makes a camera profile. Now some people ask me, why do you have the Apple logos? Well, as you can see, it's a black casing. And to be totally honest, this is about my third color checker because I lost 2 of them. And I also found them back. They were on a black amplifier or something else black. And they just don't show up in a dark studio. So I put some stickers on it that were white, so now I can see them very clearly in the studio. Now you're asking, well, those things cost a lot of money. Like this one is about 100 euros. Is there a cheaper solution? Well, there is. And what I'm going to show you now is the QP card. In this case, the 101. It's very cheap. And you can see it says a black patch, a white patch, and an 18% gray patch. It's a little bit darker than the normal white balancing cards. The white balancing cards are a little bit brighter because there's less noise in the image. So when you do your color correction and you put your picker on the gray patch, you won't get any noise, so the color correction will be better. The QP card 101, however, has an 18% gray patch, so it's a little bit darker. The fun thing about this one is that you can also calibrate your light meter with it. As you have seen on my blog many times and also on the instructional DVDs, calibrating the light meter is done with 18% gray. And the spike should be in the middle of the histogram. So this card, although it's a cheap solution, is actually very well because you can use it for calibrating the light meter and also for your color balance. And this card, it's around 5 or 6 euros. So this is the cheapest solution. Now some people say, well Frank, I'm on location and I forgot my color checker or I forgot the QP card. What to do to make custom white balance? Well, some people will say take a tile off the street and color balance on that. Well, you can do that, but then make sure that your whole series is color balanced on that particular subject you've chosen to do your color balance on. It won't be 100% correct, but at least you have a constant quality of color. And you can always say, well, it was my creative solution to use this color. One of the better solutions, however, is get some of the QP cards one-on-one and put one in your camera bag. Always leave it in there, never take it out. So in the studio you use another one, or you use the color checker or the spider checker, and always keep one white balance card in your camera bag. And what you can also do is, because they are very small, cut out just a little part and stick it on top of your camera or on the bottom at the battery grip. And if you use Velcro, you can just tear it off, give it to your model, and that way you always have color balance with you. Now, one final tip. I'm in the Netherlands and some people are in England or other countries where the sun isn't always out there. There are clouds and sometimes the sun will show up, sometimes the clouds will. Well, let's make it very clear. The color balance will shift over the photo shoot. So what can you do to solve this? Well, again, the QP card 101 is very good for that. What you do is you cut out the gray part and you just put it somewhere on your model where you can easily clone it out. So now when your model is walking and the light changes, so the color temperature changed, it sees a walking gray card. So you can just white balance on every single image of your model, get the correct color balance and then clone the little card out. You can put it on jeans or you can put it on a dress, but make sure you put it in a place where you can, 1, make the final color correction, and 2, clone it out very easily. So for today, those are the tips to get your colors straight in your camera and in Photoshop, and it will save you a lot of money and a lot of time, and your customers will be happy. About the software workflow from the color checker and the spider checker. I won't explain that in this video. When you go online and you go to the website of both manufacturers, you will see videos explaining how to work with the color checker or the spider checker. In fact, it's very simple and very easy. So there's no reason to not use those color checkers. So make sure that your workflow is calibrated correctly. Start with your monitor and shoot every image, or at least every image where you change the light setup, shoot a new image with the color checker or the spider checker, just which one you choose. When you shoot the color checker or the spider checker, make sure that you light it very, very flat. Also, when your model holds the color checker, make sure that her fingers doesn't cast any shadows on the color checker or on the spider checker. And one final tip, when you shoot it, make sure you don't blow out any highlights. Because when you blow out, for example, the highlights a little bit too much, the software that will determine how to make the profile will see that one of the patches is clipped and it won't make any profile. So make sure, 1, you light it very flat, so everything is lit exactly the same way. Make sure there are no shadows on the color checker or spider checker, and make sure that you don't overexpose. When you do your color balance in Photoshop, you do this in the raw converter. You go to the picker that will say white balance. And now you just click on one of the gray patches. The gray patches you always have to use. Even if you make a profile and you load this profile in Photoshop, always make sure that after you load this profile, you do the white balance. So you go to the white balance picker, click on one of the gray patches after you load the profile, and your image will be correct.